All right, well, we're recording, and we did a review of first and second declension nouns. A little time with that, but now we're going to go ahead into chapter 11. First, second declension nouns deal with chapters 6 and 7 for the nominative, the genitive, the dative, and accusative. Now we're into chapter 11, first and second personal pronouns. These are, I don't believe you have any real significant issues with them. It is a matter of sort of, again, recognition. Now, the function, though, you're very used to, you're very comfortable. I don't think you have much trouble with them. So let's just sort of dive in and begin to look at them. Let me go ahead and, all right. So a pronoun is a word that's going to take the place of a noun. You already know that. There's a great video in the LMS from conjunction, I forget the name of the group. Years ago, the little cartoon.
Schoolhouse Rock.
The Schoolhouse Rock. They do a great, I like those things because they, you know, the older we get, the less we sort of think about grammar. It's either intuitive or we just, you know, just don't even recognize it. But when we learn another language, it forces us to think about what's actually happening. And because it's been so long since we kind of looked at grammar, that those little Schoolhouse Rock videos, those kind of stuff, just makes it so much easier to do, and makes it a little fun. It's always good to have a little bit of fun. So pronouns are a word that takes the place of a noun. You can't keep saying, "Well, Sam said Sam is going to the store with Sam or with Jake and Kara." And so if you keep using the name over and over, it gets monotonous and problematic, and so we use personal pronouns. Well, Sam said he and Jake were going to the store with Kara, his wife, so we'll use these personal pronouns. Let me show you why this is important. Let me change something here. I got time for this, I believe. Let me share a different screen here. Hold on a minute. I got to do that up here. Stop sharing, share a different screen. No, actually, I share the same screen. I just want to move a different thing. All right. For example, in Mark chapter, can you see that pretty well? Mark chapter 16, verses 14 through 20. There we have, of course, the commission, go into all the world and preach the gospel of creation. He who believes and has been baptized shall be saved, but he who does not believe or disbelieve, the New American Standard says, will be condemned. And then it talks about how to the validation or verification of those people. These signs will accompany those who have believed. In my name, they will cast out demons. They will speak with new tongues. They will pick their serpents. And if they drink any deadly poison, will not hurt them. And they will lay hands on the sick, and they will recover. And so then Jesus, Lord, spoken to them. He was received up into heaven, sat down at the right hand of the God. And they went out and preached everywhere while the Lord worked with them and confirmed the word by the signs that follow. Okay, so the question is, who is the ones that receive these miraculous abilities to pick up serpents and to drink deadly poison, to lay hands on the sick? Well, intuitively, or through other lessons, we know we're talking about the apostles, but here it's very clear in the original language. In the English, it may be confusing in the sense that here we talk in verse 14. I don't think I can highlight here, though. I don't think I can. There probably is a way, and I just don't know it. In verse 14, he appeared to the 11 themselves, so we know who the subject is or who he's talking about. And he reproached them for their unbelief and hardness of heart. And he says, go into the world, you 11, you guys, go into all the world and preach the gospel. No problem with this, right? Go into the world and preach the gospel to all creation. But then it says, he who has believed and has been baptized shall be saved, but he who does not believe or disbelieve shall be condemned. So, and then these signs will accompany those who have believed. Well, who's he talking about? Is he talking about those who believed and have been baptized and shall be saved? Do they receive the signs? I mean, you can interpret it this way because these signs will accompany those who have believed. Well, who are those who have believed? Verse 16, who has believed and has been baptized. That's a false interpretation. And we know it's false interpretation because the pronouns, right? If we go back to these signs will accompany those who have believed, those who have believed, if I highlight this, will do it for me? Okay. All right, here's the pronoun for it. This happens to be actually the article tois. Learn your articles, right? Dative plural, right? Dative plural masculine. Well, if you go back to verse 16, he who has believed, and there's it's again article, by the way. I know I mentioned this to Sam, but Jake, the article is not always meaning the. Matter of fact, in Greek, you have a definitive article, but no indefinite article. And the reason is because the article isn't always the article. Sometimes it will be translated as the a definite article, but oftentimes it's not functioning as a definite article in Greek. It functions differently. In this case, it's functioning specifically as the personal pronoun. He, well, that's singular, nominative, singular, masculine. So it's not possible for these signs will accompany those. I'm pointing to those like you could see it in verse 17. Those who have believed. Well, the believed is not the ones in verse 16 because those who have believed is plural and verse 16 is singular. And what he's talking about is pointing back to verse 14 after he appeared to the 11 themselves. So the personal pronoun, and you find the same thing if you follow the promise to the apostles in John chapter 14, 15, and 16. It's to these apostles. You go to, of course, you know this. You go to Acts chapter 1, and you see, we won't for time's sake go there. And you see that it's to these apostles that Jesus appeared. It starts at the very beginning. Luke speaks about the very beginning of Acts chapter 1, about who he appears to, the apostles. He even names them. And then he starts using all these pronouns. And then we see in Acts chapter 2 this miraculous wind or sound like a wind, and these tongues like a fire fall upon them. Who are them? You follow the pronoun, and it's very easy to see that it's really all it's talking about who received those miraculous abilities, those miraculous gifts. It was the apostles. Pronouns are really important in many, many ways. And so I wanted to highlight that just for your, and I don't know you guys know this, but just to emphasize that here for us. Any thoughts or questions in there before we move forward?
No, sir.
Oh, good observation.
The personal pronoun is a word that takes the place of a noun, and that's why it's called often it's antecedent. It points back to a noun. A noun can be a person, place, or thing, or concept. Right? A noun that is replaced by a pronoun is often it's referred to its antecedent. So Jake went to the store. Jake and Samuel went to the store. They bought a Pepsi. Well, they is a pronoun, a personal pronoun. Actually, yeah, it would be. And third person. They is going to point back to Jake and Sam. So they is the antecedent that replaces the Jake and Sam. So you shall call his name Jesus, for he shall save his people. He is the pronoun. Its antecedent, excuse me, I had it backwards, is pointing back to Jesus. That is the antecedent. It's pointing back to. So Jake and Sam would be the antecedent for they in the example I used earlier. Go back to here. All right, so a personal pronoun, just like in English, it's the exact same thing. It has to agree with its antecedent, what it's pointing back to in gender and number, but not necessarily case. So it's going to agree in its gender. If it's pointing back to Jesus, then the pronoun has to be masculine. If it's pointing back to Jesus, the pronoun has to be singular. Now, it may function differently. It may function as a nominative. It may function as the genitive, possessive. It may function as accusative, as direct object. It may function as the dative and the indirect object. But it will be singular if you're talking about if its antecedent is Jesus, and it will be masculine. But it may function differently because it's just replacing Jesus's name in a different function, different sentence, right? So a pronoun has its own function in the sentence, in its own case. So Jesus, he will save his people. Well, Jesus is the antecedent. It's masculine, it's nominative, and it's singular. But his is masculine, it's singular, but it's genitive. It's his people. So its function is different, but yet it will follow the gender and number. The masculine, feminine, or neuter or masculine or singular. Does that make sense? We're on the same page, guys?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
All right. So here are the personal pronouns in totality. I think there's a better slide. No, we'll do it this way. All right. So we're talking about first person, right? Versus second. What's the focus on first person? We're only going to do, by the way, first and second person now. We'll do third person next week. It's a little different. But first person, again, we're looking nominative, genitive, dative, and accusative singular, and the same thing in the plural, right? And so there is no gender for first and second person. None. Okay. Third person will have masculine, feminine, and neuter. But first and second does not have a gender. I is not a gender. Me is not a gender. You are not a gender. So there is no gender associated with a first or second person, right? So ego, you might remember, is the word for, it's a smooth breathing, is the word for a first person nominative singular. So how would it be used, Sam, in the sentence? How would you use ego, meaning I, in the sentence if it's nominative singular? What is its function?
Nominative singular as the main main object.
Well, not main object. You're meaning the right thing, but you're saying the wrong thing. I know what you mean, but what you mean is right.
It's the object of the sentence.
What would say that again?
The object of the sentence.
No, the object would be the accusative case, right?
Oh yeah, that's the subject.
Right, the subject case, right?
Subject, not the object.
So that's what I is, right? We don't say Sam and me went to the store. Well, no, wait a minute. No, it's Sam and I went to the store.
Yeah.
If we want to say Sam and me, then it would be while at the store. Well, it'd still be Sam and I. When you're using it in the accusative case, it would be me. So it's Sam and I went to the store. So ego, just a vocabulary word. You got to know the vocabulary. Ego means I. It's very simple. In the genitive case is our possessive, right? The word is going to be moo, like a cow. Moo, moo, moo. And notice the ending. Okay, we have our case ending with the upsilon. It follows the same case ending. Notice the dative case, which is the indirect object. It is the iota ending. It's moi. And then me is the accusative, or me, me. So me is easy to remember because it's spelled like me. Pretty straightforward. Moi is a dative, and it means to me, or with me, or in me, or by me. Mu is the genitive, would be of, or be my, or mine, my. And then the plural, well, let's just do, right now, let's just stay in the singular, okay? Ego, mu, moi, me. There's our singular first persons, okay? Ego is I, mu is my, moi is to me, and me is just me. Okay. So I do want to highlight the case ending and case ending there is the same as we learned on our nouns, the same as we learned on the article. And here you can use the helping words, typically to, it might be with or in or by. And then the genitive, you don't really need it, the helping word of, because of is embedded in my. It's my house. So it's kind of an emphasis or a focus there. Does that make sense? Are we okay so far on this? Don't worry about these yet. I haven't got to them yet. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to stay with the singular and we're going to go to second person. What's second person? Well, it's you. It can be you singular or you plural. In English, we don't. It's hard to differentiate. So what do we say in the South? We say you for singular and we say y'all for plural. Although pretty much nowadays you say y'all for everybody, for everything. So here's our word in the Greek su. Notice the second genitive for the second person. It's also the upsilon ending and the iota ending for the dative. su, soy, set. Look, same pattern, same pattern, same pattern, same pattern, same pattern, same pattern. It really becomes, once you recognize it, becomes easier. This sigma is a second person, su, soy, set. Ego, mu, moi, me. I, my, to me, me. You, your, right? Your is possessive. And to you and you. Really, it's just a matter of learning this. Now, I want to highlight a couple of things. We're dealing with the singular so far, okay? In the singular, there's no accent mark, no accent mark. Here I have a rough or smooth breathing here and my accent there, but none there, none here, here, or here. In the second person, there's my accent, no accent, no accent, no accent. All right? That's important because you get a different form of the same word, means the same thing, but might have a somewhat slighter or greater emphasis to it. Emu, emoi, eme is the exact same meaning, my, to me, or me, but one is differentiated with the epsilon in front of it and also differentiated with the accents mark, but it's the same word, mu, moi, me. And here they add the epsilon to it with a smooth breathing and add an accent to it. And it's exact same meaning, but maybe oftentimes with a greater or at least a slightly greater emphasis. It's mu versus emu. Mu is my, emu is my. Moi, to me, emoi, to me. Often, or me, eme is me, and eme me. Really, when these emphasis is used most often, is in comparison. It's mine and not yours. I'm talking about it's given to me and not to you. So oftentimes these emphases here are not so much creating a greater emphasis of mine, but a contrast between, hey, this is mine, it's not yours, or this is to me and not to you. And that's typically how it's used. So sometimes it has a sort of a greater, slightly different emphasis. It's to me, but it's really in contrast. It's to me and not to you. The gift is given to me, it wasn't given to you. That's typically how that's used. Does that make sense? You see that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So over here, we see, okay, over here is su. There's our accent mark. And once again, no accents for su, soy, and set. But you get the exact same word, su, soy, and se. Where over here they added the epsilon to it. Here they don't add anything to except the accent. It's the exact same word, su, soy, se. Difference, it's functioning the same way as we saw here, except it's you and your, or it's you, to you, and you, right?
So it would still
Often,
be in that contrast kind of form.
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. That's typically, it's trying to give a somewhat of a greater emphasis, but not, I wouldn't say emphatically greater. It's not, it's mine versus, no, that's mine.
Yeah.
But it's mine in contrast to you. It's you that he's speaking to, not to me. That's sort of the general emphasis of how it's typically applied. And so su, soy, set are the exact same words, but has a little more emphasis. I wouldn't call it an emphatic emphasis, but has a little more emphasis. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so singular. Pretty easy once you sort of, learn ego, mu, moi, me, su, soy, set. Learn that, and then the other forms, just add the epsilon to it or add the accent to it, and you get the exact same thing, all right? Now, the plural is also pretty significant in its pattern. Same thing, first person, plural, right? Hey mace, notice the rough breathing. Hey mace. Hey moan. There's our Omicron nu. Wow, that's familiar. Hey min. Oh, there's that iota, although it's with a noon ending now, but we're rough breathing. Hey min. And hey moss, there's our Omicron sigma, which we've seen before, with the rough breathing. So hey mace, Hamon, Hamen, Hamos. You see a pattern with one with the hey, Hamex, Hamon, Hamen, Hamas. And then we're talking about Hames is a we, Hamon. Well, we should be able to realize and remember that that's the plural for possessive, our. It's our house. It's not his house. Hamen, to us. Okay, it's plural for first person. I, me, my, we, plural, our, or us. And here's our object, us. Hemos is us. So you do need to know that. But the neat thing about for second person, which is you in the singular, of course, in English, it's also you in the plural, right? So we typically sometimes would do that, or would do something of that nature to help the differentiate. In the King James, of course, they differentiate with these and thous and those kind of things, which I don't know. But notice here, it's exact same word in the second person plural as it is the first person plural, except for it's an upsilon rough breathing versus the eta rough breathing. So instead of Hames, it's Humes. Instead of Hamon, it's Humon. Instead of Hamen, it's Humen. Instead of Hamos, it's Hamos. But it still means you, excuse me, yeah, that's singular. You, plural, Hames, your, there's our omega nu, and to you, and there's our iota, which is very prominent, and then you for the direct object. And it really becomes that basic and that simple. Now you do have to recognize it, but once you sort of get comfortable with that, it follows some of the same patterns as our nouns in our articles. Some of them, especially the genitive plural one, especially the dative with the iota ending singular, especially the upsilon with the genitive upsilon ending. Once you see those things, it becomes a lot easier to recognize and remember. Ego is I singular, su, first person ego I, su, first person or second person you singular. Then you have this mu, moi, me, su, soy, se, and hemes, hemon, hemen, hemos, humes, humon, humen, hemos. And that's it. That's really all there is to it. Okay. Again, bring out the normal use of the pronoun versus some emphatic use. Now, the word emphatic, oftentimes, and I used to teach it, it's like it's mine. Well, personal pronouns are not generally that emphatic. They can be, but they're not generally. Often it's more in contrast. It's mine versus yours kind of thing. And you can see it's the exact same word, except in the first person they added the epsilon, and in the second person they add in the first person they add the epsilon and the accent mark. In the second person they add just the accent mark to it, and that's how you know. Okay. A singular unemphatic normal form has no accent. That's where we already brought it out. There's no accent here. Ha pater mu. So it's my father versus ha, and that should be here, and I think that would be that. Ha pater mu with the circumflex, and so that would be the difference. In some circumstances, so this would be my father versus instead of yours. He's not your father, Jesus says to the in John chapter 8. He's not your father to the Pharisees, to the Jewish leadership. He's mine because you don't obey his commandments. In some circumstances, the preceding word will add an accent to it to make up for that. So ta onama mu. So the accent that was there moved to there, ta onama mu, meaning my name. And that's what it's doing. Okay. A little practice. Who wants to read this for me in Greek?
Ego,
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
ego, pis,
Diphthong. One sound.
pis, do,
Two.
yeah, pistu, ton, legon,
Well, finish this because you said pistu, but what about this?
pistuo,
There you go. Pistuo.
Mhm.
Pistuo.
pistuo, ton, legon, su.
Yeah, pretty good. Ego pistuo ton lagon. Ton lagon su or ton lagon su. Long or short o doesn't matter. And when you break it, here's I. Now the verb we're going to learn later. The verb also embeds within it the personal person number, right? Number person, first, second, or third. And so this actually in of itself means I believe. So what we have is I and I believe. There's our the. Sometimes we translate it, sometimes we don't. It kind of depends on different things that I won't go into now. What does this mean?
Word,
Right? And what does this mean? Sue.
you.
Your.
Okay, you, but it's look at the genitive case, right? So it'd
Yeah.
be your, right? Right, it's correct. So I believe there's your word, or really it's literally the word of you, right?
Mhm.
You, genitive, but we just say your. So I believe. And so this is like, I believe. And that's not really so much, I believe your word, but it's more like, I believe in contrast to those, because this is, I think, from John, if I remember right. And John is always writing about contrasting belief versus unbelief. And so here we see, I believe, in contrast to those who don't. I believe your word. I think this is probably Mary speaking in John chapter 12, I guess. But it may not, maybe somewhere else. But you see, I believe, although there's really I believe as well. I believe your word. And so you notice we didn't translate the here. Again, English doesn't always, there's not a direct translation. We'll spend more about the article later. Okay, any thoughts or questions on personal pronouns first and second? Because that's it.
No, it seems out of all of the like memorizing those things, this one seems easier to memorize,
Yeah,
especially with like the plural form. It's just the same besides the eta to the upsilon.
yeah,
So
yeah. The nice thing about it is once you sort of learn, get reasonably comfortable with, especially the case endings and nouns, and then you do adjectives and the articles and then adjectives, and now you're doing personal pronouns. You're just keep building on the same information. You keep reusing the same information in different applications, and it becomes like, oh, okay, that's not hard because you've already seen it 2 or 3 times, or some of it anyway. Some of it's new, but you just keep adding to it. That's why, Jake, I really like this format because it keeps building block form, and it makes it easier to sort of kind of follow and retain. What do you
yeah,
think?
well, especially with like in the genitive the own or in the dative with the iota.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So let's do a little vocabulary. Who wants to pronounce? One person pronounce. Well, we'll just alternate. First one goes, and then the other. What would this word be, and do you know what it means? Now, Jake, I know you haven't done the book yet. You may remember some of the words. You may not. Okay, that's all right.
Yeah.
Adelphos.
I hadn't
Adelphos.
done the book either. You can't get Sam to do much sometimes. So yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I was about to read it.
Hey, I was too.
All right.
This is
Somebody.
one I actually do know.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Go ahead.
think. Adelphos.
Yeah, Delphos or Delphos. In the genitive form, it would be Adelphu. Right. There's our genitive case ending, and we see our nominative masculine singular article. Right. Here's our second declension stem ending or connecting vowel. Some people call it. So yeah, very good. What does it mean?
I think it's brothers
Exactly. What? Say it again.
or brother.
Brother. Thank you. It'd be Adelphoi, Omicron, iota. right? So once you learn that pattern, you say, oh, this is a second declension pattern. All right. And now I know the second declension pattern, masculine word, right? I know it's masculine because of that. I know it's a second declension pattern and it's masculine because of that. Now I can figure out my plural, adelphoi, because I know the pattern, right? So that would be brother. So yeah, this is brother. So this is the lexical or dictionary form. Lexicon is nothing more than a fancy dictionary that has more than just meaning in it. That's why it's called a lexicon. On. Oh, why am I pronouncing it? Okay.
On.
Yeah. You remember what it means?
Who?
Yeah. Is that what it is? I'm trying to remember because there's another on. Again, it's
It
not like
says in the book, it says an untranslatable,
there you go.
indefinite, practical
Particle.
particle. I'm sorry, used to make a definite statement. So it says changing who to whoever. You usually cannot translate it.
Yeah. So oftentimes you'll have like trying to remember term of the Greek for who. I want to say it's that's not right. I don't remember. But so like you have the Greek word for who, which I think is something like that, Haas. And you want to say instead of who, you want to say whoever. Yeah, the Omicron new as a separate word. It's not part of the word on, and now it's whoever, whoever, whatever, whichever. You know, when you're a kid, you're a teenager. When you were a teenager, you go, yeah, whatever. That's what the ever is right there. So it's
Okay,
really,
so it's something that you add to.
yeah, it's not a word in itself. It's
Yeah.
a particle. A particle really just sort of in this case, it's used to help make a definite statement, like it says, contingent upon something else. Definite statement would be, well, who is the one? Well, it's whoever. Who is saved? Well, whoever obeys. So it makes
Would that be the same, Dave, with like a may? Like the
amen.
may part of it? Because in the last vocabulary, you have a, which is if, and then you have right underneath that a may,
Let me look at what you're talking
and
about.
it
Oh,
looks like two.
no. Well, no, a is a vocabulary word meaning if.
Yeah, but I'm saying like a may, that may at the end of it, would that be the particle?
No, may is two different words. A is one word. May is another. Means not.
Yeah, so
Okay? This means
okay.
if, and this is going to be put them together. When they're together, this is going to be an emphatic.
Yeah,
Uh,
except or if not.
except or is not right. It's more emphatic.
Okay.
It's not or except for these. Right? Except for these, no one will be saved. It has more of a emphasis into the negative. So,
But this right here, this on, you won't see it by itself. You'll see it with something.
uh, yeah, well, it's still by itself
Yeah.
uh, as a separate word, but it has no meaning. So it's just a particle that adds to the meaning of the word that precedes it.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, whoever, whatever, whichever, and that's really all it's doing. Whoever,
Okay.
whatever, whichever. Okay, when we get to relative pronouns, so we're talking about relative pronouns will sometimes be associated with on. That's where you get the whoever. A relative pronoun is whoever or who, which, whose, whatever, or what. And so if you add the on, it becomes whoever to a relative pronoun, whoever, whatever, whichever, that kind of stuff. So, okay. So seeing how I read that word, this is your turn, Samuel. We got about 3 minutes and we'll
On
kind of
air.
on air. Smooth breathing, right? So you don't pronounce it on air, right?
On air.
How do you say here?
Andros. Andros.
Andras, yeah, Andras. And notice that it has the noun singular masculine article to it, so we know it's a masculine word. Now,
Mhm.
what's happening here is that's a consonant, and so its stem ends in a consonant, and basically it's a third declension, which we hadn't done yet, Jake, but Sam has. And so there's some, in this case, it gives us the genitive form andros. Ha. I think that's right. I'm pretty sure that's right. I'm looking on there. I'm curious. Is that a third declension word? I think it is. I have to look it up.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is.
third declension, it would be masculine or feminine. That's that
Well,
first.
so, and that's the point. Okay, a third declension word can be either masculine, has a masculine, feminine pattern. There's one pattern, and a neuter pattern.
Yeah,
Okay,
it
so,
ends in that Omicron sigma.
right. But every word is either going to be masculine, feminine, or neutered. They're not going to be a combination. This particular word, aner, is masculine. It can't be feminine and it can't be neutered, but it's going to follow this third declension pattern, which is the same pattern for masculine and feminine words that are third declension. That's all that's saying. So it's going to follow a given pattern, and that pattern happens to be the same for masculine and feminine words. It's only third declension because the stem ends in a consonant. And actually, I think that's the consonant right there, if I remember right. But I have to look it up. What does it mean?
Male or husband.
Yeah, male or husband, right? As opposed to anthropos, meaning man or humankind or mankind, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Jake, you want to do this one?
Mm-hmm. Ecclesia.
Yeah,
It's
ecclesia.
how I
And
learned it, but with the A there, Ecle, or I guess it
ecclesia,
would be similar. Ecclesia, yeah.
ecclesia is how I would pronounce it. But if you're a little off, I don't really care. It really doesn't matter. We're not trying to be one. We don't. No one really knows how first century pronunciation was really done. And like right now, I'm trying to learn Spanish, and depending on who you talk to, there's different accents. Same with English. There's different accents wherever you go. So it's not critically important, but you want to sort of pick a style or approach and kind of try to stick with it. So you can be. The key is consistency, so that whomever you're talking to, they at least they know, you can understand where you're coming from. So ecclesia, and our accents over here. Ecclesia, it's a smooth breathing, so we don't add a sound to it. Ecclesios in the genitive form. Is this masculine or feminine word?
Oh
It would be
boy, put me on the
feminine.
spot here. Let's see. It's
It'd be
first declension.
Yeah, first
And
declension.
A is. I'm gonna say. Wait, hold on. I can get this.
there's
Right on.
only
Declension.
two genders. Well, there's a third, but
I know one of them's neuter, and the other is.
Well, you
It's gonna
got
say feminine. I don't.
right. You got masculine
So we're gonna go with feminine.
and neuter. Those are our choices. So you only got 33% opportunity here.
Okay.
It is definitely feminine because its stem ends in an alpha or an eta, and here's it ends in an alpha. It has the hey for the article, so that's always feminine. And so obviously it's feminine, and you're right, it is first declension, which all that means, listen, first declension, second declension, third declension means nothing, except knowing that helps you know what the pattern is. So you can, I know where's my genitive form, I know my dative plural is going to be this, I know my accusative plural is going to be that. You could follow the pattern then, and it just, so understanding what pattern it follows, first declension, second declension, let's say second declension masculine versus second declension neuter. Those are two different patterns. First declension feminine, or third declension masculine feminine, or third declension neuter are two different patterns. So, yeah, ecclesia. Do you know what it means?
Yeah. The church.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes and no. It actually means the assembly,
the assembly.
right? And if you go to Acts is X-19? Is X-19 where the riot is with Paul? I think it's X-19.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, those people in the riot, they're called ecclesia, assembly. Well, that's
Interesting.
not the church. Okay, now context will say this is the church, but in Acts 19, it's the same word, assembly, but it's not the church. So we translated church. Church actually, the church didn't come to play into what, the 1300s or something. There was no such word. But ecclesia means the assembly, and context will determine if it's the church, which most of the time it is. In Acts 19, is not. And there's probably one or two other cases where it's not the church. So I try to bring that out because a lot of people will recognize ecclesia as the church as well. It doesn't really mean church. Context tells you that the assembly is referring to the church versus referring to the riot that tried to kill Paul. So, make sense?
Makes sense.
All right, for time's sake, because I know Samuel's got to go to the next class. El Peace is what? Anybody? Sam, do you remember what it means? Did you look it up? El Pidos. Hey is a feminine word, right? El Peace. And this is going to be third declension because of the consonant ending. Is hope. Yep. Excu. I don't remember what excu means. I'm pretty sure I know, but I forgot.
It means without.
Yeah, without. Yeah.
In the genitive outside.
Yeah, because it is
preposition genitive
an adverb.
outside.
As an adverb, when it functions as an adverb, it means without. But as a preposition, and it can function as either, it's one of those words that's been around forever, so it has multiple reasons, functions. It means outside, right? Okay. Epi means upon. And I'm going to remember here, but notice here, okay, when epi is precedes or is followed by a word that starts with a vowel, then it will be with a smooth breathing. That's a rough breathing. With a smooth breathing, it will use this little hyphen or
He'll drop that vowel.
yeah, drop this and have this little comma up top. It will actually change its spelling and not only drop the vowel but change its spelling when when the word following it has a rough breathing, and so that's why you see F versus F, and it basically changes. It has to do with how you make the sound. Kind of makes it easier to bring the two words together when it has a vowel. The next word is a vowel with a smooth breathing versus a vowel with a rough breathing. Otherwise, it's just FB. Upon or on. Hey, Mace, there's our first person plural, meaning we. Thelematos, there's our genitive form, tog. I know it's a neuter word because of the ending. I also know it's a mot word, which is anything that ends in a mot is always neuter. Always, 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 always neuter. Telemat, telema versus telematos, and that ta dropped off here. That ta is actually dropped off because ta hates to be by itself at the end of the word, so it just goes home, it leaves, and you get telema. You get that noun rule later. Meaning, what does it mean? Remember desire? If I remember right?
Will or desire.
Yeah, will or desire. I'm going to go faster. We're running out of time. A day, I don't remember them all. I mean, behold. Edu, also behold. Kalos, good. Here's an adjective. I know it's an adjective because I don't have a ha or a hey or a ta. Instead, I have a masculine form, the feminine form, and the neuter form. Kalos being good, good book, good book, good woman, good man. You know, it has to be able to agree with whatever it's modifying. Let's see, a mater, mother, obviously feminine. Ude meaning and not, or not even. It's actually two different words that are combined. Ude meaning and, and not.
And not even, neither,
not even.
nor.
And pater, or paros. Again, there's a masculine word, happens to be third declension, and it means, of course, father. And pisteos, there's our genitive form, Third declension has a different format. It's feminine word. Faith is feminine, and it means belief or faith as a noun, or trust. Huder, meaning water. Hudatas. There's our genitive form, and it's a neuter. Water is neuter. There's our rough breathing. Hudatas. Humace. There's our second person. So it's going to be not we, but you.
You in the plural.
Y'all.
Yeah.
Photos, ta, neuter word. It's third declension, which gets a little complex. But third declension simply means light. Photos. Charis, you guys know that word. You remember charis? Jake, feminine word. It's also third declension. Charis. What does it mean?
Grace.
Yeah.
If I'm remembering right.
Yeah. Here. Rough breathing, circumflex, long vowel. Hudet. Here. Here, excuse me. Here. And that's it, guys. Okay, and you're late, Sam, so appreciate you being here.
No, thank you, Mr. Dave. I'm going to go ahead and get on to the songs.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk to you all later. Hey, I'm going to stop recording. And Jake, do you have any questions?